welcome to another Monday art session. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are one of my lovely members that I see very often, welcome back. It's nice to see all of you. My name is Debbie and I'm a mixed media artist, and I like to put a film up every Monday if I possibly can, and thankfully today is one of those days. I want to do something a little bit different today. If you're a regular, you'll see all the themes and just different sort of threads that I follow on my channel. Like I do favourite five favourite colours, and then a now series where I'm going through an old sketchbook and doing re-sketching things that I sketched a while ago to see how my styles change. Excuse me. So I've got all of those sorts of things, but today I want to do a simple, relaxing landscape. It's a Tuscan landscape. I'm actually a reasonably regular contributor to the Landscape Art Club over on Instagram, and it's brilliant. They have fabulous photos once a week, and you get to paint from them and then just sort of exhibit them, and everybody says nice things. It's a very nice group actually. And what I wanted to do today was I thought it would be quite nice to show you the steps and actually do a real-time sketch of the submission. Let me just show you the picture I'm going to do, and this is this week's. Sorry about any glare there. Like I said, it's a nice, warm Italian scene. Yeah, I would like to show you a little bit better, but the lights are just not going to let me. However, if you have a look on Instagram under the Landscape Art Club, you will see the pictures, and it's well worth joining in with if you're looking for something to sort of get you inspired. So always inspires me, and I'm going to do one of the sketches this week for you. So let us get started. Just going to open the water because, like I said, I'm a mixed media artist, and my go-to layers are gouache, and I will start off with that, and then I dry that and I come back in with coloured pencils and markers. And oh, there's a bit of collage too. My apologies about the distracting duck. Let me just get rid of him for a bit. He's a collage, so actually let him have his moment in the sun. The duck is actually collage. I have a particular way of doing this that I've pioneered, well, sort of pioneered. Other people do similar. This is mine. I use my mixed media on them, and I cut, excuse me, must be an allergy day today and I haven't realised it. Strange. I cut all the feathers out fairly well individually, hand colour each one, of course, and then do a background and assemble. And yeah, this is the result. So this is my mallard duck, and I do love him actually. I would have liked to have not done him in a sketchbook and actually framed him so I can enjoy him on the wall, but there you go. I shall cover him now. He's had his moment. Let's go to Tuscany. Right, the first thing I do is I have my very, very dirty palette here. Very bad indeed. Let me just slide that down. In fact, we might put the camera up just a bit. Sorry about that. Don't want to make everybody seasick, but so that you can see what I'm doing there in my palette. As you can see, it's famously filthy. I never clean it. I never do anything but top it up with paint when I feel I need more paint. And my style is quite a muddy one, as you'll see if you look through my pictures. However, I like muted colours. I'm using a DecoArt Traditions Dome Blender brush. It's a number 12. And the reason I like this one is I can scrub the colours on, as you are about to see, and I don't have to worry about the tip of the brush. Like I said, it's all very random, but it's pretty easy to do, and the results are nice. I like them anyway. Gosh, that's a little bit blue. Don't want that blue. Just get the colours on at the minute, and I can then come back. A bit more blue down there. Oh, gosh, not that much. Crikey. That's blue. It's all right. We can just go over it and scrub it out and move it elsewhere. Really like that colour I started with and can't seem to get back to it. That happens. Again, worst things happen at sea. I'm now going into pure white and just scrubbing some clouds in. I can't copy anything. I make an absolute lousy forger. My skill is in sort of painting what I'm feeling, the interpretation of that, and sort of that's it. So I aim for believable, not realistic. So it's just a sketch, and probably the person who took the photo might recognize it, might not. Okay, the sky is basically in. It's not necessarily finished, because what happens is when you get rid of all these other put all the colors in and get rid of all this blank paper, sometimes you go back and you say, right, well, this needs tweaking here, or it needs tweaking there. So that can happen. Now, I'm not washing my brush. I never do. I mean, I will occasionally. That's not quite right. But at the moment, I want that sky color in there. Don't want too much water on the brush, but I just want a slightly different blue. If I can coax that into life, that's better. Because in the picture, which I'm loosely interpreting a sketch on, there are some distant mountains which are indeed blue. It's all a bit of a mess at the minute. I can already see there that I would like to lighten the sky just a little bit. However, it is still wet. Now, my favourite green that I mix the darkest indigo blue I can find. I mix the darkest castle brown I can find, and the darkest green. And that gives me my signature dark green. And then I use that extensively. Sometimes I make it different colours, sometimes not. At the moment, let's just get some on here. Don't want that to be too sort of even. And that can come down. That's a bit more even. And then we've got some more trees. When you do a sketch like this, or indeed any landscape sketch, you work from the back to the front. So the furthest part back to the front. The furthest part back is almost always going to be the sky. It's just how it is. And then the back mountains and things like that. It's not quite dry enough yet. Now I've washed my brush and I'm going in with a bit more water, a mustard yellow, a bit of an apricot, and plenty of white, because I'm after these fields, which I almost certainly won't be happy with. Bit of green on the brush there, it doesn't matter. Again, I'm just laying in the fields at this point and getting rid of the blank paper. So, like that. This can have a little bit more variation. Sometimes I don't blend it all in and make a new colour. That's also the same, bit more white needed. I'm sorry you can't see some of what I'm doing here, but I'm just mixing generic colours. I'm on purpose not saying what most of the colours are, for the simple reason that I know you are watching from all over the world. I'm in Germany, and the things I can get here, you may not be able to, and that's just frustrating. So I've mixed a mustard yellow, an apricot, very pale apricot, and white to get this colour. And yeah, it's just then put on. Like I said, it's quite sort of muddy at this point in time, which is how I tend to do it anyway. But, you know, it's quite a nice colour for that sunlit field. Let's wash the brush again. That's a rarity, but I do it when I need to. But quite often I like to just keep the colours going, because not washing the brush blends them really nicely in together. I just want to put some light into this sky and separate it from what's going on underneath here. Bit of movement, bit of texture. I've got a bit of white on my brush and that's about all. And a bit of water. These dome blenders will hold an enormous amount of water. So you don't sort of want to overdo it. That's probably enough, and leave it alone. Leaving it alone is one of the best and biggest skills you can have as an artist. Right, now I'm going to move down here with that green I mixed before. A bit more indigo, brown, green. And fill in. It's almost black, but it actually works as green. And I use it quite extensively. It's my absolute favourite. That's going to be a challenge because that's a lot lighter green. So what I'm doing is, without washing the brush, I'm adding in a lighter green here in the front. Not liking it, but I'm putting it there. So, yeah, it happens sometimes. And back into the dark green to add some variation down here. Bit of green there. And then we have two enormous elephants in the room here. So sort of a medium green and the dark that I like, just to more dark actually, because I'm going to come back and put any light that's required in with my coloured pencils. So I'm saving that particular pleasure until then. Just upward strokes here, just to get the feel of the cypress. And there's another little one here. So we just fill it all in, and all the separation between green and all these other colours will happen in a second with my coloured pencils. It's such a nice way to sketch. I really, really love it, and recommend, if you've not tried it before, then this could be what you might be looking for, because I know as artists we're always going through stages. That to be a bit darker. We're always going through stages where we're not sure of this and want something new there, or bored with that. This was the turning point for me personally, and I can well imagine that it would be for anybody else as well. Right, so keep it nice and dark close in here. And then we've got a road that comes down, and there's a bit of, still a bit there. This is quite a long way in the distance, so we don't want to bring it too far forward. Like I said, this is not an accurate representation. You may be able to go and find this. That would be lovely, but that's not what I'm going for. It's just the feeling of it. So it goes there and a bit there. That will do just beautifully. Right, I'm going to wash the brush, and I'm going to dry what I've got so far, and then come back with a different brush to put some more details in. So I shall go off and dry this, and shall be back very shortly. Okay, more or less dry. So the next thing now is I will search here, almost certainly in vain, for a round brush. This one is a number 3 round brush, and all I'm going to do with that is a fair bit of white into this background again, but I want more white than any other colour, because I want to show myself where there is a road here to be drawn in. Like so. And that will be useful in a minute. There are some other areas here of just lighter. I'm putting some of them, but not all of them in. Again, don't fuss. This is meant to be fun. I reckon we're good, actually. On the horizon, there are some more of these cypresses, which I can get 1 or 2 of them in, not all, but again, that's fine. The others are behind that tree, so they're actually there, but we can't see them. I'm thinking that, I will plot them in. And again, I'm using my darkest green. Just plot some of them in. Actually, I may not. I'm going to change that. I'll put them in at the end with either more gouache or coloured pencil or marker, to be decided, because otherwise it will make it very, very difficult to do the other bits. So yes, that's the next bit now. Again, I'm going to give that a dry. What I'm using here is a Ranger heated craft tool, which I use for my card making. You can also use a hairdryer too, or put it in a sunny window and wait for it. But waiting doesn't work on videos. That would be extremely boring, literally watching paint dry. So we don't want to do that. Just cap my water, because I'm more than capable of throwing that around the room. Okay, let's have a look. I've got some of my favourites. This is going to be quite Caran d'Ache heavy in places, but I've also got a couple of others here. Now, the sky doesn't require very much. What I want to do with this distant hill is to take, and this one is Payne's Grey 30%, and I'm just going to put a bit of contour in there. You won't see very much of this, it's quite subtle. How about I also use Payne's Grey 60%, that's nice, they match, and just also put some texture marks in. Don't want to bring these too forward, and the more detail you put in, the more you bring them forward in the picture. Now I'm going to go over with the lighter one, straight over those marks to burnish them in a little bit. And I feel Chinese white, Derwent Drawing Chinese white, my favourite, just to add a little bit more texture there. And also a bit of a glow on the horizon where the mountain actually might disappear. I'm not suggesting that a landscape this hot is producing a mist, but, you know, just to knock that back just a little bit. Right, the next ones coming forward are these here. My favourite is Caran d'Ache Green Ochre, and I use that a lot in my pictures. I'm just using it on the edge there. Right along these trees, down a bit. The next colour is Derwent Light Fast Forest. And I actually use these three colours. Let me get them all for you and just show you. They're being used quite a bit, actually. Caran d'Ache Green Ochre, Derwent Light Fast Forest, and Derwent Drawing Yellow Ochre are my three go-to colours with trees to get this really nice muted effect, which I quite like. This is a fair bit darker than I really would like in the background, but I will get onto that in a second and fix that when we get to that bit, because there is a quick fix we can use for that. So at the moment I'm just doing what I want to do here to get the trees in place, and then I can come back and worry about what looks like if it's too close, and put in a little bit of distance. Okay, so just lightening those, create shapes in the trees, and quite often you can look where you've made the gouache marks and say, right, well, that's that shape and that's that shape, and so forth like that. If it's too light, knock it back with a bit of this. This one's the forest. I have to stop myself from calling it forest green. I grew up in the 80s. It's not forest green. It can actually, it's a brilliant pencil. If you're about to buy pencils and you're not sure which one, you need this one. It can be a few different colours. It's a browny, grey green, and it goes perfectly. It's such a nice dark colour as well, and it goes perfectly with these other colours. Right, the next thing I want to do now is to bring in something next down. That's got to be fixed. And actually what I will do is fix, it's not actually in the picture, so I can do what I like with this bit. Bit of artistic license going on here. I'm sure that it happens all the time. Bit of a shadow there. And then Caran d'Ache Brown Ochre 50%. Because we're bringing in some texture here without light. I don't want to darken it. I want to texturize it a bit, if that makes sense. So just the start is this color. So just making marks. As you can see, this style is actually really quite quick, and you achieve something fairly soon. But for me, the big thing is to keep the colours muted. I just went onto my tree there. The good thing about this is if you do go onto the tree, take it off with an eraser. I have a battery operated one. A normal eraser will also work. Now I would like a French grey, which is the same sort of colours but just slightly darker, and I'm using quite a light touch because again I don't want to make these fields too dark. They just need a little bit of texture. I don't like leaving any part of a painting completely flat, like for example like this. That needs to have something done to it, and I would never just leave it like that. I'd always do something, even if on the photo I'm using, or if I was sitting in the actual real place, even if it actually was like that, I still wouldn't do that. I'd add some texture. I rarely do a flat sky. It'll always have some movement in it. And yeah, that's sort of my approach to it, which I think it works okay most of the time. Right, now I would think going back in, same colours, and I'm undecided between Derwent Drawing Wheat and Derwent Drawing Light Sienna, because what I want is a light colour now to knock some of this texture back, again, whilst keeping it quite light. So this is Light Sienna. Just leaving some holes there. Texture everywhere, bits here. And then let's do both. Let's go wheat then over the top of that, which then makes that quite nice. And what I'm doing here is burnishing the darker colours into the hill and making it look a little bit smoother, knocking some of their power back while still keeping them there. So you can still see them, but you're keeping it nice and light down there. So there are a few colours used, but it works. The next one here is, let's do this clump of bushes, my 3 greens again, starting off with yellow ochre, green ochre, sorry, my apologies, green ochre. And when I come down here, I want to preserve some of the depth. When you use mixed media in layers like this, for example, you've got the tooth of the paper, and then over the top of that you've added another layer of tooth effectively with the gouache. These are all various layers of waxiness and oiliness and what have you. They're not going to bite onto each other. They'll bite onto what you've put down as a substrate. So the tooth, in other words, of either the paper or now the gouache. So if you want to keep it nice and pure and dark, go in with a dark colour, because then if you watch now, this won't go, this is not quite so strong. However, here and there it will be, which works for trees. So right there, I've left a gap when I've done the trees, and it's bitten onto it, which is what you want. Please let me know in the comments if that doesn't make sense and you would like me to explain further. And yeah, just to do that. Like I said, I'll show you a trick in a minute to push all of that into the background, so I'm not too fussed about it right now. Here's the next bit. Same thing, just a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and get the shapes vaguely correct. Vaguely correct is all we're after here. You can, of course, go in for absolute realism, but I'm guessing not everybody does. up here on this tree, I think I will create that to be a bit nicer shape with my forest pencil, that one too. Then I can come in and just put some highlight on the side. Now these, you can do them in this sort of thing over the top of the gouache, but I'm going to use a slightly different method with those shortly because I want them to stand out a little bit more. So for now, just making sure it's all light enough. That's all light enough. The path might be quite good in light sienna, but we don't want to make it too much the same as what's going on there already, so I'm going to go with Chinese white. And what we're getting here is the feeling that this is actually a really hot day in a really hot place. So a bit of Chinese white, and then I will just increase where there's a bit of foliage there with my forest pencil, because it just occurs along the road. Just a little bit. Things in the background tend to be lighter, and things towards you tend to be darker. And the best way to keep everything where it goes is to remember that and don't allow the two to intrude. Right, let's do a cypress. I'm going to do the light. I'm going to assume the light's coming from the left, which is my usual thing. And that's how it is in the picture too. And I'm going to go down here with a bit of roughness with my forest pencil. Again, I'm leaving gaps because I want the other coloured pencil that I use next to sort of grab those bits that I've left. So you won't see very much until I do this, but now it will be revealed that just going over the whole thing again, can you see what's happening there? You've got some bits that are becoming lighter green, but leaving the others at the back because I've put forest there. And it's entirely random. It's not really, because I've done it so many times. I know what I'm doing, but it feels very random. And it gives you the effect of quite an easy to draw tree. Coming down here, you can see, I'll show you in a second, I'll hold it up a little bit closer to the camera, but you can see there where I've gone firstly with the dark green and preserved all those shadows. Then by going back in with the lighter green, it goes over the top and creates us a tree. And of course, you then can go with the yellow ochre on the extreme light side and just add some highlights. And we keep doing that. Go over the edge sometimes because it gives it a glow so that the sun looks like it's behind it. A little bit here. And so on. Right, this bit here is back to the more rounded strokes. And just, I'm going to have to use a lot of artistic license because that bit doesn't actually exist in the picture. But as you can see, I'm using the same colours as well. I'm not swapping the greens out very much. I will do here because that sort of needs it. But for these others, the same palette of greens is usable, which is really good if you're travelling because you don't have to take every green that's ever been invented. And here as well, this one is a little darker because there is some shadow from this tree, which we do want to preserve. Actually, let's live dangerously. Let's grab another green. This one is olive brown, 50%. It says olive brown. I'm going to pretend it's green because it sort of is. It's green enough. I'll put a bit of that down there. This is how you can add some variety to the base colours that you've used and get some more sort of things happening in there. Right, gosh, there's a bit of a sticker there and it's really triggering, to coin a phrase, because it is slightly different. It's slightly shiny and it looks like water. Right, I'm going to go up to this other one and do exactly the same with the forest, just to get those texture marks in. And I will show you in a second, because I think you might be able to see that a bit better, given the light being the way it is here at the minute. I wonder if I move that around. Yes, you can see that a little bit. You can see where the dull gouache is completely matte, and those are the bits that the next colour green is going to grab. Whereas the shinier bits, that sort of satin finish, is the pencil I've just put down. So if I now go in with my olive green, or green ochre, sorry, it will grab just by scribbling. Can't scribble over the forest because it's created a bit of a barrier. It won't let you. And we need to bias the light towards the left side. What it will do, however, is smooth it out and burnish it, because as I mentioned before, every time you go over something with a lighter colour, you burnish it into the paper, which is good. It's exactly what you want sometimes. And come around here a little bit with the green ochre. And you can see here where I'm making strokes, it's only appearing here and there. Now back in with the yellow ochre to really big up the highlight, biasing that towards the left, which is where the sun's coming from. Okay. And again, we can come back at any time and change any of these things. So if you think, right, that needs to be a little bit lighter to make it stand out against the background, we can come back in and do it. There are no rules about this sort of thing. Literally nobody policing it. Short intermission. If you like what you're seeing here, do consider joining my Patreon, where you will learn a lot more of these techniques. I've got quite a lot of content up there, including collages like him. Yes, so there's a link in the description box below, and I would absolutely love to see you there. It would be nice to meet up again on a different platform. So yeah, consider joining and learning all about mixed media art and the way I approach it. Right, intermission over. Thank you for listening. I will now put some more on this last cypress. These are incredibly satisfying to draw. Just scribbling. It's really 90% scribbling. What the trick is and what you learn is where to put the scribbles. Because if you just scribble, it will look like a 5-year-old's done it. Once you've learned where to put the scribbles and how to do them, it's extremely easy, very satisfying, and very unstressful. Right, that's that colour. Not going to go into that one with it, however here I will. I just want to preserve some of this darkness, and then I might even consider sharpening my pencil because it's a special occasion and all. So just a little bit, don't need too much. And what I'm going to do there is to make a slightly different shape of leaf. So here, back to this rounder soft leaf, and see, it cannot go in where I've got the dark there. However, it does create little gaps because you can't completely fill it in. I don't even try to. I do try to leave those gaps, and it looks from a distance as though you've got some foliage there. Now this one, I'm going to break the habit of a lifetime and find a different colour. Let's try this Caran d'Ache olive yellow, and I am going to keep going with this though, to keep it nice and sort of coherent. and I'm just scribbling in all sorts of different directions with my forest pencil, creating gaps for it to cling onto. Like so, and come down a bit too where it's got a bit of colour from the other tree happening. Then coming back up here with the, what was this one? This was olive yellow. After all this years, only been doing this for 45 years, still can't remember all the colours. I don't need to, so I don't bother. I just look at them and I can read it. Okay. This is a very similar principle to my resist technique, which again, you'll find tutorials about that on my Patreon, so we don't keep you all day here. But it is a particularly nice way to create trees that, if not really realistic, are believable. A bit up there. And the great thing about these techniques is if you say, oh, right, wait a minute, there's meant to be a bit of tree, say here, you can create the gap and take some of those top layers off with the eraser and then come back in and put them on with your pencil. That's too even, so I'm going to make another bit here just to make it a bit less even. And the reason why this is important to say here is because when you're putting layers on over the top of the gouache, there's only so much the paper will take. And this especially is quite a smooth paper. This is a Ranger sketchbook. Diane Wakely, I want to say. I may be wrong about that, but I think it is a Diane Wakely. And it's very, very nice and easy to use. Lovely smooth paper. But it only takes so many layers, and when you compare it to something like Pastel Mat that takes a hell of a lot more layers, you'll see what I mean. But you can get some layer back if you take one of them. You can get some tooth back by taking a layer off. So that's really quite important for there. Right, that's basically what I would like to do here in the middle. Now I can see I still want to make this a bit lighter. So going in with Chinese white. Not everywhere, just here and there, because I am trying to get it to show the reflection of that heat. And I've used my green that I used to show things here in Germany, which it isn't really. Okay, the next thing now, I'm going to dig out an acrylic marker. I think I shall have a look and see, and I shall come back to you very shortly. I've made a successful search and I have found an acrylic marker. Now this one is a Art brand one, which are a fabulous maker actually, and they're available on Amazon everywhere as far as I can see. If you're in the US, much easier to find and more colours. Isn't it always the way? Excuse me. They're not available in open stock, but this one is from the Earth Tone set and it is number 29, which is all you get as far as colours are concerned. It's a 0.7 millimetre, which is what I love about it, because I can go in and make quite fine marks. You probably won't see these yet. You will in a minute though. So I'm just filling in some of the cypresses along the road. Just a random sort of mark making, and being acrylic, these are not gouache or anything like that. These are acrylic, so they're nice and permanent, go over most things, don't give you too much trouble. Just some cypress shapes. Awfully satisfying, I'm not going to lie, it's great. And don't forget, some of them have to be on this side of the road. So we can do that. And what I will do is I'll speed this next little bit up. It's only a short bit, but it's exactly the same the whole way through. So I'll speed it up and you can have a look at the end and see what I've done, and I'll talk you through it. Okay, so there we have some cypresses coming down the hill. What else can I see that requires some attention? I think that's about it actually, and it's about what I would want to put in a drawing this size. You might consider sort of some of the, again, the texture in the fields. There are bits and pieces, and you see it as you go through your picture, you're going to see different things. And again, I'm working from a photo, which is my usual habit. I'm not a huge fan of plein air painting. Excuse me. I think that's about what it needs. Right, and as a final touch, as I said, this is supposed to be in the front and the rest is supposed to be something towards the back. So to give it a little bit of distance without, you know, fussing, I like these pan pastels. It's the ultra soft pan pastels. This one is white, titanium white. I've got a little applicator here, which I believe is a makeup applicator. I expect it will work just fine because it usually does. And what I'm doing, let's go for this side first, is just going over the bits here in the background that are supposed to be in the background with this. This will need fixing because otherwise it will come off on everything. So just pushing it back a bit, going over the whole lot and the top of everything. It means you can still see what's going on back there. And also the smaller applicator, because you can use the ones that come, you know, the bespoke brand that they have. But I find that this is also good, and it allows me to get where I want the colour to be. It really clings to the sky because the sky is almost pure gouache. Keep it on there. If you get it on the wrong place, you just take it off again. But the result that it has is that everything goes into the background a little bit more, which is what I wanted to see because it was all a little bit bright. You can take it off again too by using a clean part of the applicator if you want to sort of reduce what you've done. But other than that, it works quite well as a trick to get things to fade into the background. And it's just about looking and seeing. See, for example, there's a bit much there. So just using a clean part of the applicator takes some of it off. And then I would fix that. You can use a regular fixative or you can use hairspray or anything like that. It will all have much the same effect. Fixative is really just adding a layer of a varnish, for want of a better word. It's a new layer between the layers that are already there. And it stops it from transferring to everything, especially when I want to use this side of my sketchbook. Anything I do, I don't want it all over my duck. So that's the best way to do that quite quickly. Let's do the big reveal. Should leave most of my paper intact, which it has. If it hasn't, use the heat tool or your hairdryer or anything like that when you're removing tape. If you're not sure about it taking the paper with it, use your hairdryer, because it'll slightly soften the glue in the tape and make it less likely to tear your paper. Okay, I might add a very, very small colour palette here because I wanted this in landscape format and basically my, portrait format. Because my pages are square, I decided to make a little area here where I can test colours. So I will put those in, and you will then see them in the finished article. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really enjoy your company, and I'm so happy that you've taken the time. Like I said, if you like what I've done here and you enjoy this style of painting, do consider joining my Patreon, and yeah, we can do more of this sort of stuff. So as an outro, I shall put my colours in. See you soon. Bye.